Okay, so this is gonna seem like it's coming out of nowhere, but because I want to get to 100 Pokemon videos, um, with the 100th video being our first stream of Legends Z-A, I was thinking about what video I should make because I have, let's see, I have, what, six of them? I'm looking at my dry erase board. I think I have six, including this one and including my last Pokemon Y stream. So I was like, okay, well, let me figure out what I'm gonna do. So whether or not they do rerun raids, well, let's back up. Scarlet and Violet did Terra Raid system. It's basically this generation's version of the Dynamax raids, which in and of themselves were brought over from Go. And that was a fantastic inclusion. I'll get into that in my thoughts on Scarlet and Violet video. But they did make some changes for this. They're more time based now instead of feint based, or knockout based, let's say, for the Sword and Shield ones. I'm not going to give my opinions on those, but there have been a number of raids going up to 7-star, just like Sword and Shield. And I like doing them. And by this point, with the exception of one, I have done every 7-star raid and most of the significant 5-star raids. When I say most of the significant 5-star raids, I mean like legendary 5-star raids, not like Pokemon you could get normal game 5-star. So, we're talking about all the starter raids. We're talking about like Salamence, Metagross, right? That was one of them. I think it was one of them. Metagross. Yeah, Incineroar, and then like the 5-star, we have Rayquaza and Dialga and Palkia. But I did all of them with the exception of one, that being the Poison type Greninja. I'm hoping that they rerun the Poison type Greninja raid for ZA's upcoming release. By the time this video comes out, we should be less than 3 weeks away. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we should be 2 weeks and 6 days away when this video comes out. But I said all that to say that I enjoy doing these, and I kind of figured, you know what, since I'll be looking at it in the thoughts of for Scarlet and Violet in more of a gameplay like sense in terms of the Pokemon I use, like the logistics for them. I never really said anything. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to talk about some of my favorite raid Pokemon that I've used. It will likely the first, like, it'll mainly only be 6 of them, just because even successful attempts for a raid will be 5 minutes. So if one lasts less than that, good. But I'll just go down the list of them. I'll talk about the stats and what stats were chosen for each of them, what their general build is. And these are going to be helpful because not only were these built for specific 5-star raids to 7-star raids, but they are also just really good Pokemon in general. So both in battles, normal battles, and in just general raids, they're pretty useful. And there are 2 notes to that before we get started. The first being, in terms of their usefulness, the raids I think are pretty random. And given all the Pokemon that exist, there will be no way to actually counter everything. Especially not with a handful of Pokemon. You need to really dedicate like half of your box space to building specific Pokemon for each use case. But also, in terms of stats, so I used build guides for a lot of them. They really go into EVs and IVs. And since I finished the game by the time I started doing all this, and got to level 100 for things and got a bunch of experience candies, hyper training was also available. Just know that for most of the Pokemon that we will be looking at, it's specifically the raid counters, if all their stats are at hyper trained, it's their highest stats that are hyper trained. An example would be well, my Esperanza, which is on the thumbnail, is fully hyper trained. But I have like the Lapras that I built, most of its stats are hyper trained. Its special defense, attack, HP, and speed are all hyper trained. So just as a general rule, if it's not all hyper trained, it will usually be the two stats that we're trying to raise. So in this case, it was attack and special defense, and then HP and speed, because why wouldn't you have more HP and speed? Now, this is really expensive, not in terms of real world money, but in terms of in-game money. So Amulet Coin, they let you rematch a bunch of trainers through the Academy Ace tournament, as well as Blueberry Academy if you have that. So yeah, you can buy bottle caps, you can buy vitamins. So that's those two basically done. And you can the only other thing that you have to worry about is the TMs and moves, because that you might have to have some of them be egg moves, you might have to make TMs and a lot of them. So it'd probably be a good idea to grind Pokemon resources as well. But yeah, with all that out the way, let's go ahead and get into this. So, the first Pokemon that I wanted to talk about is actually one that isn't hyper trained at all. Some of these were made before I started doing that, and some of these I just forgot, but it ended up working out anyway. So, our first Pokemon is Azumarill. I actually have two of these. It's just the only one I use on my main file is this one, because I moved the other one over for the Palkia raid in Violet. So, but she is level 100, and her highest stats are special defense, 8, and HP. Her main thing is, and her nature is an attack boosting one. I can't tell you the name, mainly just because, you know, mints exist, so I'm not even sure if the mint I'd give, if the nature I'd give you would be correct. With the ability Huge Power, held item Shell Bell currently, and moves Liquidation, Misty Terrain, Play Rough, and Belly Drum. I believe Belly Drum is an egg move, but in terms of this build, that is absolutely, you know, that's absolutely a great moveset to have. With a 184 in attack and I think as close to a maxed out special defense as possible and HP as possible. The main thing with this is to try to tank hits and belly drum, so that I can next turn use, depending on what I'm using it for, use Liquidation or Play Rough and gain all that HP back while dealing massive damage. I really only use this for water type coverage, though it has fairy type based things as well. The one thing about this is that it does do a little bit worse with fire types. I used it for the Chiyu raid event recently, and it did take a little more damage when it was just normal Azumarill from the fire type moves. It flipped around completely and took more damage from the dark type moves when I switched to water. But yeah, overall, the way that this is supposed to be built is that so long as you have the stat increases up, you should really be able to heal from basically all the damage that you take, is even when the shield is up. So at this point, I'll probably put in one of the raids I used it for. I don't know if I'm going to put in one of the I don't know if I'm going to put in one of the 7-star raids I used it in or what, but I figured it'd probably be good to have an example of what I'm talking about. So, moving on. The next Pokemon that I wanted to talk about was, I actually nicknamed some of these. This is the one of them. Sala, the Electros. Now, when I nicknamed these raid Pokemon, I nickname them for the Pokemon that I'm building them for. In this case, this last, I'm sorry, no, um, this guy, why I think that, oh, it's because the last one was female. This guy was built specifically to destroy the Salamence raid, the flying type Salamence raid. I did not write down what video that was, so I'm gonna have to search for that and find it, but if I recorded it at all. But in general, this one I believe is hyper trained in HP and special attack. Otherwise it's just got let me see. No, it's hyper trained in all of them, but I gave it max base stats in special attack and HP. And that's mainly because of the fact that this thing's whole thing is lowering stats and once again dealing massive damage. I think usually it would have a shell belt on, but whatever. So, like mentioned, it has really high special attack. All of its stats are hyper trained, max EVs in HP and special attack, and it has a nature that raises special attack and lowers attack. With a moveset of Thunderbolt, Acid Spray, Eerie Impulse, and Gastro Acid. So that's basically, suppress stat gains, suppress abilities, lower special defense, and clock somebody with a full power Thunderbolt. Only gets worse when its Terra type is Electric, which I didn't mention for the other one, but you'll see it in the raid videos, so it's not that big of a deal. Yeah, that's basically what this thing was used for. I use it all the time when I'm facing water or flying type raids. Really reliable hitter. And it has levitate, so you can't be caught off guard with ground type moves unless, you get smackdown used on you or something. Alright, the next of my raid Pokemon is Scarlet. This guy was another one that was before I really started doing hyper training and stuff. Not hyper trained at all, but it has a nature that raises attack and lowers special attack. And I believe in terms of base stats, I put them in I put them in attack and special defense. It's really hard to see. I can't wait for champions so that I can actually see some of this. And this one is actually one of the builds that you really won't need a shell bell for. That's mainly because of its signature move for Scarlet, Bitter Blade. That's basically just a physical fire type Giga Drain. So as long as you can get good damage off, you'll get good healing. With that being said, Terra Fire with the ability Flash Fire and Metronome, so that every consecutive time you use a singular move, it gets stronger with the moves Swords Dance, Sunny Day, Bitter Blade, and Cleared Smog. So Clear Smog is used to, I believe, get rid of stat increases. Yeah, it does damage, and all stat changes are eliminated. Other than that specific move, the rest of the half of the moveset is used to buff up damage done by the fire type attack so that you can do massive damage. Once you Swords Dance, not even 3 times, more like 2, maybe even 1. Honestly, Metronome can carry you a lot of the way through. I believe the first time I used Scarlet, it was for a Delphox raid, which the more I look at this moveset doesn't exactly make sense. It might have had a different moveset and I changed it. But rarely reliable fire type Pokemon. Definitely use it a lot for steel and grass and ice, and bug even, since I really don't have any dedicated flying type counters. But yeah, and it's naturally pretty fast too, so as long as you aren't facing a fast as hell starter Pokemon or something, you'll usually hit first, so that healing Like, taking the time to buff your attack stat is probably a good idea. The next one is Espathra. So this one is actually a Pokemon that was seen in my base playthrough toward the end when I streamed it. This was the Espathra that I found at the bottom of the crater in Area 0. That was a shiny. So she, I believe, is one of the first ones I fully hyper trained. I'm looking at all my other Pokemon. She's the only one that I see that's hyper trained. All of her stats are hyper trained. I used a gold bottle cap on her. And in terms of the nature, it raises special attack and lowers attack. And I put most of her effort values into special attack and HP. Oh, this is another Pokemon that I'm pretty sure is already naturally fast. With the ability Opportunist, that's a pretty big one because if I look at this, Opportunist makes it so that whenever an opponent if an opponent's stat is boosted, the Pokemon sees the opportunity to boost the same stat for itself. Really good against raid Pokemon that would set up. With the moves Psychic Terrain, Reflect, Lumina Crash, and Feather Dance. Psychic Terrain and Reflect are honestly self-explanatory. You know, boosting psychic moves. It protects Pokemon from priority moves, so no moves like what was it, Sucker Punch? Those don't work anymore, so that's one major weakness down, pretty much. Feather Dance harshly lowers attack, so yeah, this whole build is mainly used to nerf attacking types into the ground, physical, mainly. And then use its signature move, Lumina Crash, to deal massive amounts of psychic type damage, while also increasing the amount of damage you do by harshly lowering the special defense stat. This one is a godsend against poison types. The only poison type that it did not work against was that Greninja, and to be fair, I should have expected that. Otherwise, good against poison types. Probably will be good against a lot of the fighting type applications that I would be going against, but there's a Pokemon that I think it's either coming up next or coming up later that I use it for, and you'll see why. But yeah, overall, this is a really good Pokemon, and so long as you can so long as you use it against physical attackers, it's actually really good. Now, special attackers are going to be way more of a problem, mainly just because, you know, there's nothing really here to really do much against them. But if you need something, like most of the stuff that a Psychic type would be fighting, and that you have it actively be out, that's going to be physical a lot of the time. You know, fighting types. Fighting types. I don't think poison types are as physical, but they're definitely a big one. So yeah, again, another Pokemon that's really good. And I love the shiny, for the record. I won't be able to say much about this in the thoughts of for Scarlet and Violet, but I really like the shiny. It's just a shame that it's shiny, so it's rare. But yeah, so that's that Pokemon. Next. So this one is kinda difficult. By what I mean by that is that it's Magearna. It's really not all that common to get. I think the QR code for Magearna might still work in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, but then you have to use Bank and move it up, which I think still requires a premium plan for Pokemon Home. It might. I haven't been keeping up with that. I've just had my premium plan just in case. But this is a Magearna. Once again, level 100, just like everyone else. Only its special attack is hyper trained, and its effort values have also gone into, I believe, special attack and special defense. The biggest thing with this Pokemon, this is a special attacker. The biggest thing with this Pokemon is that its defense is through the roof. Also, it has a nature that ups special attack and lowers attack. It's two things. This thing's defense through the roof, and it has the ability Soul Heart. Every single time a Pokemon on the field gets knocked out, a Pokemon with the ability Soul Heart gets stronger. It raises its special attack. So the moveset of Dazzling Gleam, Draining Kiss, Metal Sound, and Reflect, we can up our defense even more, lower their special defense, and then gain health back by using Draining Kiss, or just decimate them using Dazzling Gleam. This Pokemon, from what I remember, was used primarily for the 5-star Rayquaza raid. But it's become a go-to for basically anything that's weak to Fairy. So dragons, fighting types, dark types. And given its secondary typing, unless they bring out a fire type move, they really aren't going to be able to do much to it. So this is one of those ones where it's really rare, it's really hard to get, but once you build it, it's basically unstoppable, depending on the circumstance. There isn't really much else to say. It's a mythical, so like, yeah. The next one I wanted to talk about was the Meowscarada. This is another one that's nicknamed. This one is named Sammy. This one was built specifically for the Hisuian Samurai raid, which was water type. So, Terra Grass, which actually this one I think is pretty important to list, with a nature that ups special attack and lowers attack. So most of my Pokemon you'll see are actually special attackers. There's very few of them that are actually physical attacking, and in fact, actually, there's another one that outnumbers them, which I'll get to for the next Pokemon, with the ability Protein. This is the same hidden ability that Froakie has. They nerfed it in Gen 8, or no, not Gen 8, they nerfed it in this generation, where it only works once a switch in. So the only way you're really going to get another type change in the raid battle is if you just die. Continuing on, it has the moves Giga Drain, Nasty Plot, Worry Seed, and Chilling Water. This is essentially the same thing as the other ones I've mentioned. The whole thing is raising your special attack and removing their abilities. Chilling Water, I believe, lowers attack. So you can tell this is built specifically for Samurott because it has something that nullifies the ability and lowers attacking stat, which Hisuian Samurott, like Samurott just in general, is demonic, but also Hisuian Samurott with the dark type. And I think its ability was, what was it? It was something absurd. Sharpness. It was sharpness. As opposed to the normal one. So and I have it because I'm only missing the Greninja raid, so I have all these Pokemon that I've fought against here. It has literally all of them are blade moves, so all of its moves are powered up. That's why Sharpness needed to be removed. But even without using Worry Seed, it's still a good Pokemon, and even with the Worry Seed, that can be used in so many other applications. Being able to remove an ability is actually a pretty good thing if you can get that to work on a Pokemon. So, yeah, overall, this is another Pokemon that I use a lot, mainly just against water and usually some form of rock or ground type. But again, to be completely safe and around a lot of this, you have to also take into account the Pokemon that you're fighting. So, you know, unfortunately, if it's a ground type and it's a fire type, you still probably shouldn't send this in. You should probably send the Azumarill in. But yeah, so that's the Meowscarada. The next one I have down here is Como. This Pokemon is actually an example of what I was talking about when I was talking about the one before that, where there aren't many Pokemon that I have that are, I don't think there are really any, barring Sterile Edge, that are actually physical attackers. Most of them are special attackers, and then the ones that aren't are something like this. Como is actually a defensive Pokemon, a defensive fighter. So it's Como itself is Dragon Fighting with a Fighting Terra type, nature that ups defense and lowers special attack, and it looks to me like it was hyper trained all the way. Yeah, it's all hyper trained. And the move set is Body Press, Iron Defense, Breaking Swipe, and Screech. So this should be pretty self-explanatory if you know what these moves do. Mainly this thing's whole thing... Oh, and his ability is Bulletproof. This thing's whole thing is I think this might have been for the Chestnut raid. Hold on. Let me see what type was Chestnut. Oh, this was absolutely for Chestnut. If not that, then I guess Blastoise or something. But yeah, the whole point with this one is to have your attack, not your attack, but your defense go through the roof, raising it with Iron Defense, and using Breaking Swipe to minimize the amount of damage that you do. I'm sorry, the amount of damage that you take, and using Screech to lower the opposing Pokemon's defense. This is because the move Body Press is a move that still takes into account the opposing Pokemon's physical defense, but instead of using your attacking stat, it uses your defense stat, which is exactly why we have all this defense upping everything. So this is another one that can clear one-shot certain Pokemon if you use it correctly. This is one that's mainly used for Steel, Rock, and especially normal types. If this wasn't used for Chestnut because of the bulletproof ability, it was definitely used for Dragonite. Because normal types and electric types are Pokemon that are really a headache to deal with, and in terms of the type itself, and I think that might be why a lot of them are mid in some other aspect, whether it be, electric types while they're fast, but because they only have one weakness, they're usually all trash at defending themselves. Or normal types where they only have the one fighting type weakness and they can't do super effective moves on anything. They do tend to be tankier, but they're fighting an uphill battle regardless. I personally think that there should be at least 2 weaknesses for each type, but finding other ways to nerf them is probably a great idea. Yeah, so that's it with Como. Another, like, all these Pokemon are reliable, so there isn't really much else I can say about them. Other than this is the type of thing that actually gets me to use some of these Pokemon. Like, I never used a Como because I'm not a fan of, as much as I like the pseudo-legendaries of each of the regions, the whole thing with them and needing to raise them for damn near twice as long as everything else to get them to where they're supposed to be is kind of a turnoff. But it's whatever. And then the final Pokemon that I really want to get into is I'm not really going to get into it, but it's actually Mew. So this is one that you can't really get anymore, this specific one. This one was a mystery gift for a certain amount of time, and it ran in conjunction with the Mewtwo raid. I don't remember what year this was. I think this was early 2023. Or mid 2023. It was one of the two. This one was one of the hardest raids I've done so far, including the Greninja raid. Because unlike with the Greninja raid, where I was just not building Pokemon correctly, and didn't have what was necessary to actually counter the thing, Mewtwo was borderline impossible if you wanted to use your Mew unless you went online, from what I understand. But the thing with the Mew was, you would get one of the random type, a random Terra type, and if you beat the Mewtwo raid with your Mew, you not only got the Mewtwo with the Mightiest Mark, but you would then get the Mew, the Mightiest Mark as well. Mine actually has that. It should be on the screen right now. So I can't really say much about the strategy because this was on a online raid, and there were I think the entirety of the rest of the team was Mews. All I do know is that mine was bugged, but I think I ended up changing mine to Dark type to help with the other members of the team, since it was very clear that unless I did real work, like a lot of work, I wasn't going to be an attacker. I decided to be a support instead. And you could actually see that with the moveset. It actually had Struggle Bug on it, and I do want to put that back on there eventually. But the current moveset is Light Screen, Life Dew, Snarl, and Acid Spray. I don't think I Hyper Trained this. Yeah, I didn't Hyper Train this Mew either. So you can see where the support really came from. light screen to lower the damage of all of Mewtwo's attacks, and the Life Dew to help, heal everybody. And then we have Snarl and Acid Spray, which we're really only there to lower stats. I think it's special defense and attack, or it's special attack and it's special defense and special attack. I will say this was, I think, the only raid where I had to try like multiple days in a row to try to finish it. In terms of all the Pokemon that I wanted to cover, that's it. There's a lot more. There's the Corviknight that I have that makes use of the same body press strategy that Komao does. There's a Miraidon that I used to. I don't even know if it's still on here. I think it should be in the legendary boxes. There it is. There's a Miraidon here that I used to fight Blaziken. And there's Impala the Skeletor, which I used for Napoleon. All these Pokemon are really good, and they'll probably be on the screen. And all the stats that are necessary for them, I'll be showing on screen anyway. But I really do like these raids. Obviously, I do, because I didn't do all this shit with Sword and Shield. And yeah, I decided to make this video both to help me get to 100 Pokemon videos, and also just because I don't think, with the way that script for Scarlet and Violet thoughts of, I don't think I'm going to be able to talk about this the way that I wanted to, so I decided to just do it like this. So yeah, that's it. Hopefully all these raid Pokemon will help you. There'll probably be a point, like right now, or maybe when I'm done talking, where I'll just scroll through all the raid counter Pokemon that I used ever. And you can copy the stats for yourselves. Yeah, so that's it. This should be coming out on the 26th. So 1 week from now, if not 6 days from now, will be a video that I actually didn't talk about doing. That being my thoughts on Pokemon Legends Arceus. That one will likely be one of the shortest videos that will be coming out within the next 4 weeks. But yeah. So, that's it. See ya.